Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. It is August 12th, and if you're watching or listening on Friday when this becomes a podcast, you're tuned in to the Mock and Roll Show. My name is Shawn Michael, alongside my two longtime friends and fantasy football geeks, Damian and J3. And what we do here, of course, as you know, or for our new listeners here at the Mock and Roll Show, is we talk about fantasy football because why would you want to talk about anything else on a Wednesday night? I mean, let's be honest. Breaking Bad's canceled anyway. So anyway, but the big thing here at the Mock and Roll Show is we sauce. We have the sauce formula, and we're going to get to that later on. But every show that we do is live, and it's a ranking summit. So we learn new things. We have opinions that change, and we have a great time. And by the way, if you are listening to the show right now, I want to thank you, and we collectively want to thank all of our listeners because thanks to all of you, our iTunes downloads for this baby of a project, this young growing project, our downloads have grown more than 4 times over the last few weeks. So thank you guys so much. Continue to spread the word, share, comment, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Mock and Roll Show, and also make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes if this is the first time you're listening to us. But enough about that. Let's get on with the show. We have a very special guest on the show with us tonight, and I'd like to welcome him in. Anthony Grace is our guest. He writes for ffchamps.com. He's also the co-host for Fantasy Football Champs, which you can listen to on Patriots Radio on patriots.com live every Tuesday and Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. And he's also here representing ESPN Radio of the Lehigh Valley. You can follow him on Twitter at the PPR Monster. Anyway, and he's also going to be one of our pros for next week's first annual Mock and Roll Show Pros vs. Joe's League Draft. Anthony Grace, welcome to the Mock and Roll Show.
Hey, hello everybody. Good to be here. And excited. You guys got a lot of great things going on with your show. So I love what I've been hearing so far. Can't wait to get into some debate and discussion and have a good time.
Thanks, man. Now, did that make you feel like a pro wrestler? Like that entrance? Damien, what was the pyro?
You know what?
I
tried to light myself on fire. Didn't work.
You tried to set yourself on fire. Well, either way, hey, do you feel like a rock star now, Anthony?
Yes, I do. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
No problem. So, hey, listen, let's jump right into the sauce. So, here at the Mock and Roll Show, we have our unique player ranking formula that we call the sauce. It stands for situation, ability, upside, and safety. And what we'll do is we'll go, each category, and we'll ask each other, and we'll talk about who is, the guy in the best situation, who has the most ability, who's got the most upside, and who's the safest player in this group. This week we're focusing on because after you get through the first 5 running backs on the board, which are pretty much the same for everybody, there's a little bit of a gray area, when you get down to the next group, and that's what we're talking about. We're going to be talking about C.J. Anderson, Matt Forte, the Chicago Bears, and DeMarco Murray, of course, now with the Philadelphia Eagles. So let's get right into it. Situation, guys. Let me give you a little bit of an update for those of our listeners who maybe have been under a rock or haven't had time to do their homework. C.J. Anderson, he's got a new head coach and a new offensive coordinator. They're going to implement a new zone blocking scheme, and of course, he's got Peyton Manning and Demaryius Thomas still out there on the field to keep the defense honest, even though they had a couple of offensive losses. Then, of course, Matt Forte, the Chicago Bears, he gains the head coach and offensive coordinator, John Fox and Adam Gase, from the Denver Broncos, where C.J. Anderson is. But, of course, with Adam Gase, they focused a little bit more on an air attack, which I don't know if you can consider this a plug for you over there, the PPR monster, but Matt Forte has been a PPR monster, in fantasy football. So they're going to have the air attack. And they have Jacquizz Rodgers and Kadeem Carey there, to back him up. And then finally we have DeMarco Murray coming off the insane workload of 392 carries, 1,800 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's in Chip Kelly's up-tempo and kind of gadgety offense. And he's now backed up by newly acquired Pro Bowl running back Ryan Matthews from the San Diego Chargers and the change of pace back Darren Sproles. So, boy, that's a lot. Anyway, Anthony, I'm going to throw it to you first, my man.
All right.
Of those three players, who is in the best situation?
Best situation, C.J. Anderson. Best situation. Gary Kubiak is a guy who likes to use his running backs a lot, and I think he's going to do that this year, particularly because he needs to keep Peyton Manning healthy. You can't have a situation like last year where he just tailed off at the end of the year, especially if you're trying to win a Super Bowl and you don't have much time with Peyton Manning now. So, I mean, Gary Kubiak, since 2010, rushing attack, finished top 10 in yards 4 times, top 5 in touchdowns 4 times. And the only year they didn't is when Aaron Foster got hurt in 2013. So Gary Kubiak loves his running backs, and he's going to use C.J. Anderson and use him a lot.
Excellent, excellent. Damian, your thoughts? Best situation?
Hey, I like this guy already. Absolutely, it's C.J. Anderson for all of the reasons that Anthony just articulated. You got Peyton Manning there. He's 39, but he still is Peyton Manning. They're going to be moving the ball. And they're going to be running the ball, as Anthony said. They want to keep Peyton Manning's arm fresh. I don't think he did get hurt at the end of last year, Manning, but I think they want him on a snap count this year. They do not want him to wear out his arm before they get to the playoffs. C.J. Anderson easily in the best situation, in my opinion.
Johnny, before we move on to number 2 in situation, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. No, Damien, the throw count, is that like Joba rules or the Joba innings the Yankees had at one time?
I think it is, yeah.
But one thing I want to add, I think I'm going to go one step further than just Gary Kubiak, really relying on that one workhorse running back, is typically in a Peyton Manning offense, the running back doesn't come off the field. So once he's in there, he's going to stay on there because there's going to be a lot of changing at the line, a lot of audibles. So they're going to need him and trust him, which they did. Look, if you look at the last 6 weeks of last year's season, we'll get into that later. But he was probably the second best running back in the league last year after the final 6 weeks of the season. So they're going to keep him on the field. And you can't really say that about the other 2 guys. Maybe Forte a little bit. He'll kind of get the majority of the snap counts. But C.J. Anderson, absolutely best situation, is not close.
Yeah, and hey, I just want to say, try not to break Damian's heart there, Johnny, talking about how Forte might not be on the field the whole time. That's the best option for the Bears right now, and he's over 30, since they lost Brandon Marshall. So I have to just say that I agree with you guys 100%. When you look at the situations, and we'll talk about the other 2 guys here, but there are, for me, C.J. Anderson has the fewest number of question marks surrounding his situation. You're not worried about the quarterback play. You know that he's got playmakers on the outside that you can rely on. And like you said, Gary Kubiak's performance over the last few years from a coaching standpoint. So I agree, C.J. Anderson is in the best situation. We all agree on that, which rarely happens on this show, by the way. So that's a good start with 4 people. When we have 3, we can't agree. Johnny, who is in the second best situation?
Matt Forte. Reason being, 1, they're getting 2 linemen back that they didn't have last year. They have Will Montgomery, who they got as a free agent this year, and they're actually getting Matt Slauson, their center back. He was hurt last year. Listen, the center is the leader on that offensive line. When you miss that guy, you can be in a lot of trouble. Listen, yes, no Tressum there anymore. You got John Fox. Listen, 2011, John Fox did coach the team that had the #1 running offense in the league. Listen, he has no competition there between after Jacquizz Rodgers. He got 92% of snaps last year. It's not going to be maybe that much this year, and he's obviously not going to get 102 catches again. But I think overall, the offensive line is going to get better. It can't get any worse than it was previously, so it will get better. And I think Matt Forte is going to do what he was supposed to be doing, is running the ball a little bit more.
That's great. And, hey, before I move on to the next set of opinions on this, I just want to let our listeners know, and I should have mentioned this earlier, we are streaming, by the way, for the first time in the history of our show. You can also follow us live on the Mock and Roll Show's Facebook page, facebook.com/Mock and Roll Show, and you can click on the YouTube link there. We are streaming live through Facebook right now and on our Twitter @Mock and Roll Show. Anthony, second best situation. What do you got?
Yeah, I got to agree with Matt Forte here. I think mainly because DeMarco Murray is not going to get fed the ball as much as he did last year, and his offensive line is taking a huge hit. Matt Forte, I don't think is on as good of an offense as Philadelphia has, but with Brandon Marshall being gone, like you brought up earlier, I mean, he was getting 153 targets per year with Jay Cutler in Chicago, so they've got to go somewhere. Matt Forte, 102 catches last year. It's only the second time since 2000 that a running back has caught 100 passes in a season. He can do it all, and he can rush more than people think too. 1,000 or more yards in 5 of 7 seasons. In the 2 seasons he didn't hit 1,000, 929 and 999. So he's just the most consistent. I love his consistency, and that's key in fantasy football.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. Damien, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I do. You know what? First of all, we're all on the same page here tonight. Absolutely, Matt. I got Matt Forte as the second best situation, and here's why. I actually think the Eagles have a better line, and I also think the Eagles have a better offense than the Bears. Unfortunately, I'm a Bears fan. Here's why Matt Forte is a better situation. He's not going to get 92% of the snaps, as Johnny's alluded to before, but he'll get 80% of the snaps. Beat writers in Philadelphia are already talking about a 50-30-10 split for DeMarco Murray. So DeMarco Murray gets 50%, Ryan Matthews gets 30, Darren Sproles gets 10. He's not going to get nearly the volume of snaps or touches that.
Who's getting
Wait,
the other
I have a
10%?
question. Yeah, please, hold on, John. Damien, if the Eagles do go to that 50-30-10 split, does Chip Kelly get the 10% that you're leaving out?
They said, hey, 50-30-10. I think the last 10% probably goes to Sam Bradford.
And his knees.
Design quarterback runs right on his knees. That's
Yeah, which, by the way, I was going to mention this later on, with news and notes. But did you guys see John? You know what I'm talking about.
The Pope
You guys
Francis
see the
thing, yeah.
news where Philadelphia Eagles fans have gotten a petition started to go to the Pope, so that when Pope Francis visits Philadelphia, they're asking the Pope to bless, and I'm not kidding, bless Sam Bradford's knees. I just wanted to throw that out there.
That's
So,
embarrassing. Oh, God.
That's embarrassing.
hey, at least none of us are Eagles fans, right, Anthony?
Oh, God. He's gonna tear an ACL putting on his pajama pants tonight, probably, so don't even worry about it.
All right. Lastly, before we move on to ability, obviously that means we all have DeMarco Murray as third in situation. Of course, C.J. Anderson number 1 in situation. Matt Forte number 2. You know what? Damien. I'm going to start ability with you, but I want to throw this one since he is an Eagles fan. What are your concerns about the situation in Philadelphia, Anthony, for DeMarco Murray being last on our list in situation?
Yeah, the whole going from Dallas to Philadelphia, the offensive line is going to be huge. The Eagles just gave away their 2 guards who've been starting with them for years now, consistent. They've been great anchors, and DeMarco Murray likes to go up the middle. Now they got to fill in 2 positions up the middle, and the guys they're trying to fill in with play last year did not look that great to me. And then, like we said, Ryan Matthews is going to get a fair amount of touches, and Sproles, we can't forget about him. He's still there. He's still doing things. So it's just not going to be the same for him. He's not going to get the same amount of touches, and that's going to limit his ability to score points. And again, last year, his first year he ever played an entire season, so I wouldn't bank on him being healthy this year either.
Right. And there's a lot of mouths to feed in Philadelphia this year, and it's funny. What a big change. You thought when you lose Shady McCoy that, what are we going to do? Now you have 3 guys that can all step onto the field and make plays happen for you. So in some ways, that's kind of a good problem to have, you know what I mean? But there's uncertainty with the new system.
Yeah.
Good football problem,
Yeah.
bad fantasy problem.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. Damien, I want to bring it over to you. Let's talk a little bit about ability. Well, of course, when we talk about ability, it's just that. We're talking about a player's natural athletic ability to make plays, ability to read the defense, and excel based on his ability. Damien, who's number 1 on your list of these 3 for ability?
Yeah, and when we talk about this, to me, of all of these things, I probably don't care as much about their ability of any of these guys. I think they're really close. I think they're really tight. In fact, I'm not going to give the cop-out answer and say it's a wash. But I think you could say that. If I had to pick one of these guys, I'll say Matt Forte. I think he's the most complete back, even at 29. He's not 30 yet. He's still 29. But I'll say it's Matt Forte, top ability of these 3 guys.
Okay, and by the way, I feel like we should have somehow, if there was enough talent, I wish your Giants, Johnny, would have had a good enough running back, because we've got an Eagles fan here, and we're talking about an Eagles back. We got a Bears fan here talking about a Bears back. You're the odd man out here, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Who do you have as first on your list for ability?
I have C.J. Anderson, and I'll tell you why. And I'll kind of give you a reason why I didn't pick the other guy. Forte, again, he's getting older. A new offense, kind of not the same reasons as we stated before, but again, I think you've seen Forte's ceiling. I think you've seen the best he's going to do. Again, that might have been with Trestman. But again, he's still going to do good this year. I still like where he's going. DeMarco Murray, listen, he's the new age Larry Johnson. 450 touches last year. He's not going to last very long. C.J. Anderson, the last 6 weeks of last season, he had more rushing touchdowns than anyone else in the league, and only 2 players had more all-purpose yards than him, Odell Beckham Jr. and Le'Veon Bell. I think we're just scratching the surface of C.J. Anderson's ability. I think he's just going to get better. His ceiling is very high, I believe.
All right, so you have C.J. Anderson at 1, right? Okay.
Yep.
So Johnny, of course, is C.J. Anderson at 1. Damian has Matt Forte. Anthony, give us a tiebreaker, or if you've got DeMarco, then I'm going to have to be a tiebreaker here. What do you got?
Yeah, there's going to be no tie here. I agree with Johnny that C.J. Anderson definitely has the highest upside, highest ceiling, but I got to go with Damian. Matt Forte, I think, is the guy that, as far as ability goes, he's just the most complete back. We've seen it consistently with him, and those two things factored in, it puts him a little bit above C.J. Anderson in my mind.
All right. So, by the way, like you guys in general, I mean, I'm a little bit split. You know what I mean? It's a tough decision because they're all very talented backs, excuse me. But honestly, I've got to go with Matt Forte here too. I feel like his age does concern me, but that comes into play later on. But Damian, if you remember, I believe it was the first show we were talking about running backs. You know what I mean? And I was saying with Matt, you had your concerns about Matt Forte. And I said, I'm not worried about Matt Forte having the ability at his age to run for 1,500 yards. I'll take a guy like him, even in a non-PPR league, okay, that can get 1,100 yards on the ground and 700 yards through the air. You know what I mean? I mean, I'll take that all day because he's and I'm not trying to talk about safety, but he's a guy you can rely on year in and year out. They lost Brandon Marshall. That just adds to it. They're going to lean on him. But Johnny, to your point with his age, I hope that they don't lean on him too much that they lose them. You know what I mean? But I'm going to go with Forte here at number 1. So collectively, Johnny, I'm sorry, but the show's panel, we've got Matt Forte with the number 1 in ability.
I don't mind being on an island.
As long as it's not Revis Island, right?
I'm on C.J. Anderson Island.
Okay. Anthony, second in ability.
I'm going with C.J. Anderson here. Like I said, that his ceiling's probably the highest. We haven't seen a lot, but what we did see at the end of last year, he was blowing people away with his ability. He finishes a running back 1 in PPR and standard scoring last year, and he didn't start full time until week 10. So I mean, basically half the season, and he 767 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns. He still caught 30 passes for almost 300 yards and 2 touchdowns as well. And that offense is the best of these 3 as well. So he's number 2 on my list behind Forte. But it's really, really close.
Anthony, of course, joining us from Fantasy Football Champs, which you can listen to Tuesdays and Thursdays live on Patriots Radio on Patriots.com. Damian, number 2, who do you got?
Yeah, and again, I think all 3 of these guys are really splitting hairs, but I'm also going to go with C.J. Anderson. You could easily make a case here for DeMarco Murray at 2. I think Anderson showed his metrics were definitely really strong at the end of last year. He broke a ton of tackles. He looked great. He seems to have good vision. To me, it's basically a coin flip, but I'll go with Anderson.
And Johnny, of course, that as a collective, that's going to put C.J. Anderson at number 2. So I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate on who you have at number 2, or if you want to just move on to DeMarco Murray, who honestly at this point is just number 3.
Yeah, and I was actually gonna I was gonna stir the sauce and put DeMarco at 2.
Okay, please go.
Just to make it different, but no, in all fairness, I do have Matt at 2, and I do have DeMarco Murray at 3. Listen, to rush for 1,800 yards, you have to have ability. I know the line is good. In Dallas, I know it was a great line, but you still got to take the rock. You still got to run it through the tackle. And he's not an 1,800-yard guy where he's gonna hit the corner and burn anyone. He's a between the tackles type runner where he's gonna lower his shoulder. Listen, he's a good athlete. He has good ability. I just think out of the 3 guys, he just is a little bit behind those guys.
Yeah, and it's interesting. You talked, Johnny, about the number of touches he had, and and his performance. In his performance last year. It's interesting. I was looking at the stats, and I'm sure a lot of fantasy football, players and sports fans know this, but it's just unbelievable to me. I mean, it's funny. You say they're close, Damian. DeMarco Murray is 3rd on our list, but boy, it's got to take some kind of ability to last year put up more yards than he had the previous 2 years combined, with 6 games, I think it was, less than those 2 combined years. You know what I mean? In other words,
let me hop in real quick.
And the same number of touchdowns.
To me, it speaks to, ability for running back is incredibly important. But to me, it speaks to the supreme importance of situation for running backs.
Yeah, I agree. And listen, let's not take anything away from what a difference by drafting a couple of guys, like Zach Martin and stuff like that. What a difference a year makes for an offensive line to really gel together between his previous years, you know what I mean, and last year. I mean, that's got to play a role in that, So, does anybody else have anything they want to add for DeMarco Murray at 3? No? All right. So, again, if you're just tuning into the Mock and Roll Show, we're doing our sauce right now. We're talking about C.J. Anderson, Matt Forte, and DeMarco Murray. Collectively, we have C.J. Anderson at number 1 for situation, Matt Forte at number 2, DeMarco Murray at 3, and then, of course, for ability, we have Matt Forte 1, C.J. Anderson 2, and DeMarco Murray at 3. Let's move on, and let's talk about upside. You started leaning towards it a little bit earlier, Johnny, when you were talking about C.J. Anderson. We talk about upside, a player's ceiling. Who do you feel like you can get the most boom out of? So, John, I'm gonna come to you here. Let's talk about upside. Who do you have at number 1?
I have C.J. Anderson as upside. Again, kind of what I alluded to previously is, we've seen a sample size of him. Again, from week 10 on. He's really one of the best fantasy running backs there is. Listen, his backup at this point is Monte Ball, and I don't want to harp on his backups or anything, but he's gonna get probably 90% of the touches. I don't know that Monte Ball's gonna get all that much work, because listen, when they tried giving work last season, he didn't do much with it. And this goes back to my previous shows where I hate Wisconsin running backs. I think they're terrible. So yeah, I think C.J. Anderson is the best guy there.
Damian.
Yeah, I don't even have much to say about this. Upside is C.J. Anderson all day. I think he could rush for 1,400 yards. I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility at all for Anderson. And I could see him, 12, 13, 14 touchdowns. That's his upside to me, and that's higher than anybody on the board here. So it's Anderson.
And by the way, Anthony, before I get to you, I just want to mention, we do our leagues via the ESPN.com fantasy football, which is what we base where we get our ADP from typically and things like that. And I just want to point out that so far, we are going with these 3 guys in the order of their ADP according to ESPN.com. They have Damian, is that correct? They have C.J. Anderson.
Yeah.
Yep, and then Forte, and then Murray. So far, we're pretty consistent with their ADP. Anthony, what would you like to add regarding number 1? Who do you have number 1 for upside?
Yeah, 100% on board with C.J. Anderson. I think we pretty much said it all. I mean, he showed at the end of last year that he can be that guy, like Damian said, 1,400 yards, potentially lead a league in rushing. So I wouldn't be shocked if he did that. And no question, he's clear-cut number 1, no doubt.
All right, and number 2, Anthony.
Number 2, man, this is interesting. I'm gonna say DeMarco Murray, only because his offensive situation I think is a little bit better. I think I trust Chip Kelly being there for the last couple of years, getting a little bit of consistency. I know there's a lot of new faces, but if Sam Bradford does stay healthy, he can be huge for this offense. It looks like they found a stud potentially in Jordan Matthews, so they have a wide receiver, Zach Ertz, been taking steps forward each year. So all that factors in to help DeMarco Murray. I don't think he has that 1,800-yard potential behind this line, but 1,200 yards and 8-9 touchdowns, I still think that's a damn good year for a running back.
Yeah, I don't think anybody would disagree. I think all of us would be happy to have running backs to perform like that. Johnny, number 2.
Number 2, I am going to go with Matt Forte for upside.
Okay.
Again, even with him not being able to catch 200 or 100 balls, I think he's still going to be around the 70, 75 ball area. He's still a 1,000-yard running back, but he's consistent and he has no one to challenge him for playing time. Yeah, I think Matt Forte. I do like Murray, but I'm going with Forte.
Damien, you want to be the tiebreaker here?
Yeah, I'm also going to go with Forte here for number 2 in terms of upside. I think I think Murray has nice upside. I think that Chip Kelly offense, if that gets humming, he could have a lot. But to me, his upside is just capped by volume. Chip Kelly has no reason in the world to give all of the touches to DeMarco Murray because Ryan Matthews. Well, you talk about ability, right? I mean, if DeMarco Murray is better than Ryan Matthews as a running back, it's by just a tiny margin. So there's no reason to give him all the carries there. You have 2 great guys. I think he's capped by volume in terms of upside. So I'm going Matt Forte.
All right, and then so of course number 3 once again, unfortunately, that puts DeMarco Murray at the bottom of that list. Anybody want to add anything regarding DeMarco Murray's upside? No. All right, Damien, I feel like you've been the forgotten child here. I've started with them, first few times here and there.
You got me once, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, collectively, when we're talking about our sauce formula for upside, it looks like we agree that we have C.J. Anderson at number 1, we have Matt Forte at number 2, and then this time Johnny is on DeMarco Murray, or excuse me, was that Anthony on DeMarco Murray Island?
Yeah, this time.
Here we go at number 3. All right, moving on. Let's talk about safety. You're talking about ability to consistently put up numbers. You're talking about injury risks. I mean, there's a lot of things that factor into safety. Again, we also talk about volume of carries. Can you be sure that he gets that? Let's talk about safety. And Damien, I'm going to come back to you. What do you have for safety, number 1?
All right, I'm gonna drop the bomb on you gentlemen here right now. And actually, who I have for safety is not the bomb, but I'm gonna drop the bomb on you guys. I have Matt Forte at number 1 for safety, and to me, the gap between these 3 guys, is really big. For me, Matt Forte is the safest. Again, he's 29, he's not 30 yet. He'll be 30 by the end of this season. But he got 92% of the snaps last year, as Johnny alluded to. He's going to get 80% of the snaps at least in that backfield this year. He has nobody to challenge him. He has Jacquizz Rodgers. Nobody cares. He's got Jeremy Langford, a rookie out of Michigan State, who's fast, but he's a rookie, and he was like a 4th or 5th rounder. He is a safe running back. For me, C.J. Anderson is not in the same category when it comes to safety. He could lose touches. DeMarco Murray will lose touches, and that's why if I'm looking at pick 6, I'm taking Matt Forte this year, even knowing that C.J. Anderson has higher upside. To me, that's the gap in safety for me this year. To me, it's Forte.
Anthony.
I'm on board. Matt Forte is my choice as well. Consistency is key, and Matt Forte has been the most consistent of these 3 running backs. Again, C.J. Anderson, he's in a great situation. He's shown that at the end of last year he had a great ending, but that's all he's done in his career. Matt Forte does it year in, year out, and the fact that he is probably on the worst offense bodes the best for him because he is going to get the majority of touches, the majority of looks. He's the one consistent factor. I mean, they have Alshon Jeffrey and Martellus Bennett. They're going to get looks too, obviously, but Matt Forte is going to be their focal point, their centerpiece for this offense, and consistency is key.
Johnny, what do you got?
Damian, I'm going to say this real quick. How dare you? I disagree with you. There has to be someone out there that is concerned for Jacquizz Rodgers. Probably a parent, family member, someone like that.
It's his mom.
No. Yeah, his mom. No, I agree. Matt Forte is the safest. Yeah, I think their line's getting better. He's in touches alone. When you're draft, and we've said this before, when you're drafting, if you're and you're in the first round, you don't want to go you want to go conservative, but you don't want to go too conservative. You don't want to take too big of a risk either. Where I think C.J. Anderson is a little bit of a risk, just because we haven't seen that large body of work. Where DeMarco Murray, one thing you do know is you're not going to see 1,800 yards again. You're not going to see even close to 400 rushing attempts. So yeah, Matt Forte is the safest there. But with that being said, at the 6th pick, I'm probably still taking C.J. Anderson.
Yeah, I got to say, by the way, I agree with you guys about Matt Forte. The one thing that, I really think plays a big role in this, and to me is the difference maker between, choosing either of the other guys, over Matt Forte or putting Matt Forte at number 1 in safety is this: losing Brandon Marshall, because now they have to lean on Matt Forte. And to me, that, amongst the statistics, and I agree with you guys that he's a sure bet every year, you know what I mean, and has been incredibly consistent. But to me, losing Brandon Marshall and not being able to rely on Jay Cutler for consistently good play means the ball goes to Forte when Cutler's playing well or needs to dump it off, and when he's not playing well, they're going to hand it off to Matt Forte. So to me, Brandon Marshall is the big X factor for me with making Matt Forte the safest play here, because they need Matt Forte. Let's go to number 2. Damian, who do you have at 2?
Well, let me hop in and say one more thing real quick about Forte and safety. And you know what? And number 2 for safety ties in with this. What's a more likely outcome here? That Matt Forte ends up in a 50-40-10 split. I got my math right there. In a 50-40-10 split with Jacquizz Rodgers and Jeremy Langford, or that C.J. Anderson ends up in a 50-40-10 split with Monte Ball and Ronnie Hillman. To me, the answer there is easy, and that's why Forte is the safest there. Number 2 for safety, I'm going to say, oh boy, I guess I'll say DeMarco Murray. And this one's close. I think that Murray's slightly safer than C.J. Anderson. I don't think he's safer in terms of anything. He's more of an injury risk, at least in theory, right? Because he got all those touches, but he's not going to lose his job, right? C.J. Anderson is still not totally proven, so I'm not sure I assign the most weight to this, but I'm still going to say safer, probably Murray at 2.
By the way, those of you watching or listening on the podcast that comes out on Fridays, tweet us your thoughts. Let us know your opinions, where we got it right, where we got it wrong, or questions you might have. We'll be happy to talk about them live on the air with our panel. So go ahead and tweet us at Mock and Roll Show. Johnny, safety, 2.
Going with C.J. Anderson for safety, and here's why. C.J. Anderson, he is the clear-cut number 1 there. And like Damian said, the likelihood of Monty Ball taking a lot of carries, especially from what we've seen from Monty Ball, which hasn't been very good, I think is a lot lower of a chance than you're going to see in Philly, where you're going to see a lot more ball sharing between DeMarco Murray, Ryan Matthews, and Sproles. Another thing is DeMarco Murray has an injury history, which scares me. It wasn't, it's his rookie, or I think his rookie year he got hurt. The second year, I think he got banged up, missed a couple games. Then I think he got hurt I think he tore his Achilles or something, or ACL. He just scares me, where C.J. Anderson doesn't have that injury history. Again, I think even though it's a smaller sample size, I think he showed us enough where I feel confident that his ability and everything else goes further than maybe what people are looking at, and I think he's gonna secure that number 1 spot, and he has a stranglehold on it.
Well, again, let's see if we have a tiebreaker joining us tonight, of course, from ESPN Radio of the Lehigh Valley. Anthony, who do you have at number 2 for safety?
Yeah, the tiebreaker is going to be me, and it's going to be C.J. Anderson for me. I just think I agree with what Johnny says. He pretty much has a stranglehold on that job. So unless he gets hurt, he's not going to relinquish that number 1 role. And not that DeMarco Murray will, but, he doesn't play full seasons usually. I mean, not that Ryan Matthews does either. They're both a light breeze away from hurting themselves. But, I have more faith in C.J. Anderson making it through a full season. I like the offense. He's on better. It's been together a little bit longer. There's not as many question marks on that offense. And like I said, Gary Kubiak likes his running backs. He's going to pound the ball, and C.J. Anderson's going to benefit from that.
Well, let's see here. I'm going to give it up to one of you guys to place or to explain why DeMarco Murray, if there's anything else you want to add, falls to 3. Who wants it?
For me, I'll say for me, Murray falls to 3 of these 3 guys just because of volume. Are you talking about overall? Or are we just talking
about safety after you have him, 2?
Yeah, I'll back out of this one because that was my own argument. Yeah.
All right. Well, so here's the thing now. So collectively, on this show, we go using the Sauce rankings. We have DeMarco Murray at number 3. Okay, we've agreed on that every category. Here's the problem, guys. For the first time in the history of this show, we have a tie for number 1 and 2, which we've got C.J. Anderson leading in situation and safety, situation and upside. But then we have Forte in ability and safety. So let's talk here a little bit, Johnny. Since you're on Anderson Island tonight. And Damien, since you're the resident Bears homer, I'd like you to make Johnny, take a quick second here. Give me your last pitch as to why C.J. Anderson is the top on this Sauce ranking this week.
Okay, very simple. I'm gonna give you a number here: 3,722. You know what number that is?
I don't.
That is the highest career running yardage out of any Wisconsin player that's ever played in the NFL. You know who holds that? Ron Dane. You know why you bring that up? Because Monte Ball is his backup, and Wisconsin running backs are terrible. C.J. Anderson is the number 1 running back there. Well, he's going to take all the carries. He's my guy.
Damien, Forte.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Anderson has the higher upside, and if you're swinging for the fences at pick 6, you go Anderson. The reason I'm going to take Forte is because I want a first-round pick who I know is going to give me consistent production, who I know can't lose his job. I'm probably going to go safety in the first round, and Forte to me is the safer of the 2 guys. So you can make a case for both, but I'm going to go Forte.
All right, and Anthony, I'm going to put you on the hot seat here, and you're going to come between these 2 guys, but break the tie. Who is this week's top player on the Sauce? Who is it?
All right. Well, if we're talking the number 6 pick, I think we got to go with Antonio Brown, but I know he's not in the conversation. Put that in there for a later show. Note that mentally. But between these 2 guys, C.J. Anderson and Matt Forte, if I'm taking one of them, it's going to be Matt Forte. And that's, again, just the consistency we've seen him do it. I love C.J. Anderson and his upside, but if I'm picking 6 or 7 and it comes in between these 2 guys, I would just feel safer and more confident building a team with Matt Forte as my first-round pick.
All right, so there you go. So after a great panel discussion, of course featuring our guest tonight, Anthony Grace, we have come to the conclusion that Matt Forte is the guy you're going to take. If it comes down to picking a back and the next 3 backs on the board are Matt Forte, C.J. Anderson, and DeMarco Murray, you're going to go with Forte first, followed by C.J. Anderson, and then you're going to take DeMarco Murray after that. So that is our sauce rankings for this week. Of course, tune in every week. That is the featured portion of our show. We take players that are close in ADP according to ESPN.com, their fantasy rankings, and we break it down to a science with our unique formula. So, Anthony, how did you enjoy the sauce?
Dude, this was awesome. I had a lot of fun. It's a great way to do the rankings. It's a great way to kind of have a debate. A lot of options, for 3 different players to make your argument for 4 different categories. A lot of fun, man. I loved it.
Good. Well, we're happy that we had you here for that. By the way, stay tuned tonight. We're going to get into all the details about our first annual mock and roll show, Pros versus Joe's League Draft, which is going to take place live next week on the show, and we'll get to that, and we'll announce everybody that's on the panel and involved in that league. But right now, let's move on. We had a listener named Ryan tune into the show, and he really likes the show. And last week he had his draft, and he's in a 10-team standard scoring league through ESPN, and he asked us to kind of take a look at his draft and kind of give our thoughts as to if there's any glaring issues with it, or praise we want to give. So I just want to throw some names out here and kind of have this discussion. And Anthony, I think I'm going to start here with you. He drafted 2 quarterbacks to his team. He ended up getting Ryan Tannehill, who, when we've talked about Ryan Tannehill on the show, we're all very high on him this year, and think that with the additions to the Dolphins, that he has a chance to do really great things. And then, of course, he also drafted another consistently solid fantasy quarterback in Tony Romo. What are your thoughts on his quarterback selections?
Yeah, I love those guys. Ryan Tannehill is a guy I'm targeting in every draft I do this year. I think that Miami Dolphins offense could be one of the next great offenses if it clicks right. They got a lot of weapons in place, a lot of pieces there. And that defense getting strong with Ndamukong Suh coming down there only helps the offense. They're going to have shorter fields and a lot more opportunity to score points. So love Ryan Tannehill. And look, Tony Romo, he might not win playoff games, but he helps you win fantasy championships because he'll have stats. As long as Des Bryant stays healthy, Tony Romo should put up near QB1 numbers, I think.
Now let me ask you a question. Between those 2 guys, do you have one that you would consistently start over the other, or if you have those guys, are you playing the matchups week to week?
I think you're going to play the matchups to start. If one of the guys starts, head and shoulders going out above another one, then you're going to play him. But it's more of a matchup game with the 2 guys. But I would put Ryan Tannehill ahead of Tony Romo right now, in my mind.
All right. Damian, I'm going to take it over to you here, and if there's no glaring issues that either of you wanted to talk about with quarterbacks, let's talk about this guy's running backs. When I look at Ryan's running backs, boy, does he have talent. I mean, this is the beauty of being in a 10-team league. You can really load up on players. And the key names here that stick out to me are Adrian Peterson, which I'm assuming was his first pick. It looks like on the backswing, he ended up taking our top sauce pick for this week, Matt Forte, and then in his flex he has Detroit Lions rookie running back Amir Abdullah and a guy like Darren Sproles, on the bench. Damien, anything you'd like to discuss, about the running back situation he's got?
Well, first of all, Anthony, man, I love this guy. Talk about insight here. Yeah, absolutely. Those 2 guys, the quarterbacks, you got to play the matchups there unless somebody breaks through. That's great. Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say about those running backs except, it's a 10-team league. Your running backs, buddy, are phenomenal. Adrian Peterson, Matt Forte, and Abdullah. Abdullah, I won't get on a soapbox about him. I think he's going to be overdrafted a little bit come draft time. He's underdrafted a little bit right now. He'll be a really, really good flex play. Running backs look strong on that team.
Excellent. And by the way, Johnny, don't worry. Damien may have a great love affair going this entire show for Anthony, but you're irreplaceable, my friend. I got your back. All right, Johnny. Let's talk a little bit about wide receivers. I feel like when I look at this, there are some question marks, but still great things that he drafted at the wide receiver position. Clearly, I think running back is going to be the strongest part of his team. But one of your boys is here, Johnny, from Florida State. So anyway, at wide receiver, he's got guys like Kelvin Benjamin, the newly acquired New York Jet, Brandon Marshall, And then he has Pierre Garçon. But the guy that I love, on this team from a wide receiver position is a guy that, because of an injury, we talked about this recently, guys, that people are going to drink the Kool-Aid. He's going to fall down, and I cannot wait for him to fall into my lap as a later pick. Michael Floyd from the Arizona Cardinals. Johnny, your thoughts on his wide receiver positions?
Yeah, wide receiver is definitely his weakest position. Not saying there's not talent there, but I don't like Kelvin Benjamin as his number one.
That's your boy!
I know. Listen, I love Kelvin Benjamin. I'm a Florida State homer, true and true. So much so that I'm probably going to draft Dustin Hopkins this year, just so you guys know. But anyways, Kelvin Benjamin, in all intent and purposes, he's a number 2 receiver, in my opinion. But he can get away with it in a 10-man league because his running backs are so strong. Brandon Marshall, now, I am actually high on him, even higher now that Geno Smith is out 6 to 10 weeks. I'm even higher on him because Ryan Fitzpatrick is probably going to be your day 1 starter, and he's a guy who, almost to a fault, likes to throw the deep ball. He's like a bearded Brett Favre, where he literally would just close his eye and just heave it down the field.
minus the inappropriate text messages.
Well, you don't know that.
Yeah, yes.
But, yes, I do like Michael Floyd, especially because of the injury. The one guy I don't like is Pierre Garçon. He's coming off a career worst year last year. The quarterback situation did not get any better. I'm really down on Pierre Garçon this year. But with it being a 10-man league, with his strong running back situation, I think the wide receiver can be easily masked. And with wide receiver being a very deep position, you can definitely acquire some free agent waiver wire pickups to kind of supplement anything that's kind of maybe not going his way. But I think overall, good job, really good job.
I couldn't agree, and I think just to throw a little bit of salt and pepper on his team and season, give it a little bit more taste, Stephen. I think he actually did really well, and I mean, you'd have to imagine when you look at this, he took some of these wideouts a little bit later, so it looks like maybe he took a couple of tight ends a little bit earlier, but I think he still did all right here at tight end. Damien, I'm going to come right back to you. He has 2 tight ends here, and he's got Delaney Walker, who we talked about recently, and he has Jordan Cameron.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have there?
Yeah. I love Jordan Cameron this year. I'm high on Jordan Cameron. Anthony pointed out before, the Dolphins offense has a chance this year to climb and ascend and be one of the dominant standout offenses. I think it was Sigmund Bloom over at Football Guys said the thing that you want to do as a fantasy football player is not necessarily take guys on dominant offenses. I mean, of course you do, but you're going to pay out the nose for those guys. You want to find offenses that nobody's thinking about who can be dominant offenses, because that's where you find the value. I think the Dolphins are one. I love Jordan Cameron this year. To me, Delaney Walker is a nice second option there if Cameron gets a 45th concussion this year.
Great. And so rounding out this team, no discussion really needs to be had here, but he, from a defensive standpoint, he has the Bengals, and he has the Dolphins. Not necessarily your strongest picks. And then, of course, he has Matt Bryant at kicker, who's been, fairly consistent. So let's just take it like this. And Ryan, by the way, I want to thank you so much for sending in your lineup and your team. Again, if you guys want to send us your lineup, we'll be happy to evaluate it. Even if we don't get to it on the air, we'll have our panel look at it, and we can shoot you back an email with our critique and criticism. You can go ahead and send your lineup to mockandrollshow@gmail.com, or again, you can follow us on Twitter and tweet some information to us at Mock and Roll Show. So, hearing what you've heard, Anthony, again joining us from ESPN Radio of the Lehigh Valley tonight, hearing all this information about his team, of course, you have Tannehill, Peterson, Forte, Benjamin, Marshall, Walker, Abdullah, Bengals D, you got Bryant, and then some key bench names like a Romo. I didn't bring up, but he has Vereen, he has Floyd, Cameron, and Sproles. How on an A to F system, how would you confidently grade his team?
Very, very strong with his running backs, no doubt about it. I like both those tight ends a lot. They Jordan Cameron, I think we're going to see closer to that 2013 Jordan Cameron down in Miami. So I like that. And Delanie Walker is solid. I mean, led the Titans in receiving yards last year and second in touchdowns. So with a rookie quarterback, he's going to get a lot of looks again. Solid, those quarterbacks. Again, two guys that are matchup plays right now, but can explode for huge numbers any week. And the wide receiving core, I'm not huge on, but I don't hate it. There's a lot of potential upside. I mean, Kelvin Benjamin showed he can do some things. Michael Floyd, we expect a lot out of him. Marshall is in a better situation, like Johnny said, with Ryan Fitzpatrick there. So I would say like a B minus in this team.
All right, Damian?
Yeah, I'm in that same category. I was between a B and a B minus. I don't think he's going to win his league with the wide receivers. I would encourage him to go and make a trade to try and get in a situation where he can win the league.
Who are you going to trade?
Anybody. I'm not beholden to anybody. To me, it's just you don't get emotional about players. You trade who you have and you get who you need. You know, I would trade Peterson. I trade anybody. As long as the team he ends up with is better than the team he has, it doesn't make a difference to me.
Do you agree with that B minus?
Are you talking to me?
No, I'm saying, Damian, do you agree with the B minus assessment?
Yeah, I'd say B minus B.
Okay. Johnny, I'm going to ask you the grade too, but I want to know, if you were going to trade one player on this team, if you were going to trade one, who do you feel the least confident in that you could sell to get a good player based on his value?
I think AP all day. I think AP is the guy you want to sell. Listen, trade an A, get two Bs. That's my listen. If you can get an A out of him, if you can propose him as an A+ player, if you can propose him as a 2012 Adrian Peterson, and you can get an A- and a B+ wide receiver out of it, or some combination of that, I say do it all day. But here's what I want to have a conversation about. Ryan, if you're listening, I'm gonna have a heart-to-heart with you real quick. Okay, this is a 10-man league.
Just got real.
Don't draft two defenses. there's and I kid, obviously. There's too much in a 10-man league. There's too much talent to draft two defenses. Again, this is my personal preference. We're in a 12. Our league that we run, not the Pros and Joes league, but actually my 10-year-old 12-man league that me, Sean, and Damian are in. I will never in that league draft more than one defense. And I'll go a step further. I will never have two defenses on my roster other than the week that my one defense that I'm playing is on a bye. I just think especially in your 10-man, there's too much value out there to have two defenses. Other than that, I think he is a playoff team, and I think he can do well in the playoffs. I agree with Damian. I don't think this is a championship team as it stands right now. I give it a B minus. But again, definitely has you have tools to make it better.
Okay, all right. So Ryan, again, a lot of talent on your team. Some areas where you can maybe do a little bit of work. Drop that second defense. I agree with him 100%. And I'll even take it a step further. Damian, I think you and I are on the same page where if we come to the point where we have our defense on a bye week, we're not even picking up a second defense. We're just cutting the one we have and taking another defense.
Extreme defenses.
That's it, man. So, Ryan, I want to thank you for submitting that to us. Again, tweet us your thoughts, your questions. We'd love to give you advice at Mock and Roll Show. Boys, let's talk just a little bit about news and notes here. And again, coming up, we're going to talk in depth about our big draft that's coming up. It's like our Super Bowl of this show, and that's going to be next week. But let's just talk a little bit of news and notes. Just real quick here, Anthony. The Jets weren't looking like a great team, to begin with. And I know that you have Fitzpatrick coming in. My question is, with Geno Smith coming in, going to be out 6 to 10 weeks, are they confident in going this direction at quarterback, or do you think that they try to pick somebody up?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't know who they can go out there and pick up. I don't think Geno Smith is the answer. I never thought he was. But I don't know who they're going to go out there and pick up to really replace him. I think they got to roll the dice with Ryan Fitzpatrick right now, and go from there. Ryan Fitzpatrick, look, over 2,400 yards each of the last 5 years, 23 or more touchdowns in 3 of those 5 years. So he's shown he can do it. He's done it with Chan Gailey in Buffalo, and now Chan Gailey's the offensive coordinator in New York. And I think if anybody benefited from this Geno Smith injury the most, it's Eric Decker. You got Ryan Fitzpatrick, a better quarterback coming in, and on top of that, Brandon Marshall drawing defenses away from Eric Decker. So I think Eric Decker, fantasy-wise, could be the hidden gem in this entire situation.
By the way, I agree with you about Decker. I think his value picks up big with Smith being out, even though Smith wasn't going to be anything really special anyway. That blanket coverage is probably going to fall over to Marshall. So I'm with you there. And by the way, yes, Johnny, I got a message from Johnny here. We at the Mock and Roll Show have our support 100%. A guy who already looks great in green. And
that's right.
So much so that we thought about starting a Kickstarter for him last night, Johnny and I. And that is, hey, listen, you want a guy who looks good in green? You need an arm right now while Geno's out? Let's get some hefty lefty going. Let's get the Pillsbury throw boy here. Jared Lorenzen, guys. I mean, come on, right? The round of touchdown.
Here's the good thing about Jared Lorenzen. If you punch him in the face, he may think it's a knuckle sandwich and eat your face.
Yeah! All right, I'll clap for that.
If the Jets need any pizzas eaten, too, he can play quarterback. He can eat those pizzas.
That's right. Hey, he can play defense. He's probably bigger than a lot of defensive linemen. But listen, we love Jared Lorenzen. I love Jared Lorenzen. He was a New York Giant, so he does have a little place in my heart. But when I saw that tweet yesterday, it was just I immediately had to put out a meme for him. It's on our Instagram. It's on our Twitter. Please check it out, at Mock and Roll Show. And just so you all know, weekly, I am making those memes. We're putting them up. Check them out. They're pretty funny.
All right. Also, you can send Johnny tips. Clearly, he's giving cheap plugs for himself. Show the man some love. No, I'm just kidding. John, a great job. And again, check out the Instagram feed. Not so much in the way of news and notes there, but just a great laugh. And you can see the humorous side of the Mock and Roll Show. So definitely follow us on Instagram. Damian, so the Arizona Cardinals, they drafted a running back. Ellington's obviously been there, and he's the guy that everybody just assumes is going to be the guy in Arizona. But then word comes out that the Cardinals have been talking to Chris Johnson about a 1-year deal. So my question for you isn't about who's the man there and what kind of trouble Andre might be in. My question to you is, if Chris Johnson does appear to be a valuable asset to that team, if they really bring him into the fold, do you think that Chris Johnson, A, has any value, and B, is it solely off the waiver wire?
I'm going to say no and no. To me, that's a camp body. Arians is a great motivational coach. He brought him in probably just to motivate the rookie there to, Johnson to get off his butt. Obviously, he's got a great 2 hamstring strains, so that's that's going to take some time to heal. But no, I have no interest, literally zero, in Chris Johnson.
Okay, Anthony.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything for me. I'm not worried for Andre Ellington or David Johnson. Once David Johnson's healthy, he's the number 2 back. They drafted him for a reason. Obviously, this coaching staff liked him enough to draft him, so he's going to be the backup to Andre Ellington. Chris Johnson, if he gets signed, okay, but I'm not targeting him in any of my fantasy drafts whatsoever.
Fair enough. Let's move on here. And by the way, I agree. Chris Johnson, I've said for years, is and I believe statistically still the biggest boom or bust. One of the biggest boom or bust running backs in NFL history. He's the definition of inconsistency.
Uh-huh.
So, I don't think he really has any value.
He has been consistently bad.
That's true. I'll give you that. Hey, let's move on to another segment that we do here every week on the Mock and Roll Show. It's a lot of fun for us, and it's our Would Shock You or Wouldn't Shock You. This week, actually, the question is posed actually by J3 over there. And Damian, I'm going to throw – this is a 2-part question, okay? And I'm going to throw the second half to Anthony when we get to it. But, Damian, the first question is, Would it shock you or wouldn't it shock you to see a rookie wide receiver or running back break into the top 5 this season by the end of the year?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it would shock me. I certainly don't think that Cooper, who for a wide receiver has the best shot, he's not going to break into the top 5 by any metric I can imagine. And you have to imagine Melvin Gordon has the best shot among running backs. I think he has a shot at top 10, although that's a stretch. He's definitely not going to break into the top 5. So yeah, it would shock me.
Okay. Now, Anthony, I don't. First of all, just quickly, do you agree with Damien's assessment, or do you think that it wouldn't shock you?
No, I'm on board with what he's saying. Amari Cooper, I think out of everybody, probably has the most talent, but the situation around him I don't think is favorable enough yet. Him and Derek Carr can do good things in the future, but I don't think they're at that level yet. And Melvin Gordon, probably the best chance at running back, but again, inside the top 10 would shock me too at this point.
Okay. Now, one last question here quickly. Let's just say, for a second that let's say if somebody did break in, right, from their respective positions. Let's say that did happen. Given the two guys that you guys keep mentioning, Anthony, do you think Cooper has a better chance or Gordon?
Gordon. Yeah, no doubt. I think there's too much top-end talent at wide receiver to compete with as opposed to running back. I mean, Adrian Peterson, Le'Veon Bell, guys like that, but, Jamal Charles isn't necessarily guaranteed to be a top 5 back. We think he will be. Eddie Lacy should be. All these guys should be, but there's no guarantee. I think it's hard to break into a top 5 wide receiver with how much elite talent is in that position right now.
And lastly on this topic, Johnny, I'm actually going to come back to you, who posed the question.
Yep.
Now I know, obviously, you don't love those Badgers backs, but I mean, I'd have to imagine. I agree with Anthony that the shelf, the fall off, is definitely at running back, where wide receiver, you even said earlier, is deeper. So I mean, given the fact that you don't love those Badger backs, would you have to agree that he's the guy between him and Cooper that could do it?
Yeah, I do agree. And historically, you look at, say, last year's draft, the first 2 picks, the first 2 running backs off the board, Adrian Peterson and LaShawn McCoy, both really locks to be top 5 backs. They weren't there. And then if you look at guys like Le'Veon Bell, who was drafted pretty late, you have other guys that were drafted late and they kind of make their way in. Obviously, different situations, but it would shock me if it did happen, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing I've ever seen. If he hit the hot, especially because I do like San Diego, and I do like the situation there. Even with him being a Badger running back, I think talent obviously will rise to the top. He's a great specimen of running back. Yeah, I kind of agree with Damien. I can definitely see him possibly getting in the top 10. I don't know if top 5, but it would definitely be interesting to see.
All right. And another really interesting discussion piece I was going to have you guys talk about this week. But we are running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Do you guys want to have another quick solid discussion, or do we want to save it for next week, boys? What do you want to do?
Let's keep them on and let's save it for next week.
All right, let's do it.
Well, save it.
Fair enough. All right, so next week, great discussion piece question that we'll bring up, and I'm going to pit the two of you guys, Damien and Johnny, against each other on that question. But actually, it'll probably be for 2 weeks from now. Next week is the big draft show.
Draft next week.
But anyway, and let's talk about that. Of course, we have Anthony Grace joining us this week from ffchamps.com. Again, he's co-host of Fantasy Football Champs, which you can listen to Tuesdays and Thursdays on Patriots.com, the official website of the New England Patriots, from 4 to 6 p.m. And he's representing ESPN Radio of the Lehigh Valley here on our show, and we really appreciate that. Make sure to follow this guy. He's got a lot of great insight, a lot of smart advice, and he definitely knows what he's talking about. So follow him on Twitter at the PPR Monster. But the reason I bring that up again is not just to sing your praises, buddy, but also because you are going to be one of the pros in our first annual Mock and Roll show, Pros versus Joes League draft. And I just want to talk a little bit about that, talk about the panel, which we have set up, almost entirely at this point, and announce the draft order because, Anthony, I know you're ready to start doing your homework. So, all right. So our league draft is going to be hosted through ESPN.com. We're going to have myself, J3, and Damien live here on the Mock and Roll Show on YouTube. And then we're going to have 3 expert panelists, including Anthony. And then, of course, we're going to have a group of our Joes. And I guess it's become a Joanne even, because we do have a female attendee who is a big-time fantasy football nut. They will be drafting offline, and what's good about that, guys, is what we're going to do, Anthony, Damien, and J3, what we're going to do is we're going to watch how these first couple of rounds play out, and if we see something where we can offer some insight, some advice, or something that even surprises you, that's what we're going to be here for, and so it still becomes a learning experience for all of us, right? But anyway, we'll have live discussion about that. It's going to be live on YouTube, so make sure you're tuning in. Subscribe to our channel. Search the Mock and Roll Show. We'll also broadcast it on Facebook and on Twitter. And then, of course, we'll return the following week with our draft recap show, but we'll get to that later on. Joining ourselves and Anthony Grace on the expert panel, we're going to have Adam Harstad. He's from Texas. He's one of the most respected up-and-coming fantasy football minds there is, and he happens to be a writer for Football Guys, which is one of the most respected fantasy football sites there is on the internet. You can follow him at Adam Harstad. He'll be joining Anthony, ourselves, and Scott Barrett. Scott Barrett is a contributor to NumberFire.com. He's a columnist for Pro Football Focus, which Damien tells me was recently bought out by Chris Collinsworth. And he's also an MFL 10 and DFS guru. So follow Scott Barrett at Dude Fantasy Bro. He'll be joining our panel alongside our Joes and Joanne. We have 3 of the 4 solidified. We still have 1 spot open. If you want that spot, make sure to send us a tweet at Mock and Roll Show why you should be on this panel and in our league, or email us mockandrollshow@gmail.com. The 2 of the Joes and the Joanne we have set up right now are, we're happy to announce, Johnny II from Bangor, Pennsylvania. He's a diehard Giants fan. He's a 2-time fantasy football champion. He has a huge man crush on Andrew Luck, and every year he has these super top secret CIA-level dark horse players that he will not tell you about, but everybody in the league seems to know about them anyway. You figure that one out. But and then, of course, joining them, we have Jen Ryan from New Jersey. She's a crazy Cowboys fan, even though MetLife Stadium is in the back.
Aren't they all? Aren't they all really?
Yeah, well, here's the funny thing. She's a crazy Cowboys fan, but MetLife Stadium's in her backyard. So that's got to be tough. But anyway, she loves gambling. She loves fantasy, or she loves football. So fantasy football just makes sense. And she likes to write about fantasy football. I feel like I'm giving dating game intros, guys. I don't know about you. But and then lastly, we have Jason Dudek, born in New Jersey, moved to Michigan, just moved back to Jersey. So I guess you just like living in a place that
long walks on the beach.
What's that?
Long walks on the beach, right?
Well, yeah, that's it. Or what's left of it, right? But Jason, we're very proud to have you as part of this league, and I thank you for being a listener of the show. Jason, we all salute you, man. Jason is a 12-year veteran of the United States Coast Guard. He's also a big-time Rams fan, so there's your downfall. My Niners are bad, but I mean, let's look at your Rams for a second, bro. But anyway, thank you so much for being a part of this league. We're looking forward to the draft next week. Here's the draft order. You guys want to know your draft order? Here it comes. Here we go. We'll start at 10. At number 10 comes our good friend Adam from Football Guys. He's going to have the swing pick in our league. Number 9. By the way, these were drawn randomly the other day. Damien and I shook them up in a napkin box or tissue box and pulled names out. Number 9 goes to the spot yet to be filled. So if you want the number 9 spot in our Pros vs. Joes draft, all you have to do is get in touch with us as to why you should be in this league and why you're going to beat us. Email us, mockandrollshow@gmail.com, tweet us at mockandrollshow, or facebook.com/mockandrollshow. That's enough plugs, right, guys? Anyway, at the number, hey, guys, we got to get those plugs in, you know what I'm saying? at the number 8 spot is probably the smartest man in this league, probably the guy who stands the greatest chance of winning, and a guy who I think just has an absolutely golden, soothing voice. And, of course, that's me. You guys are screwed. Anyway, number 7, Jason. Here we go. Jason, that's your pick, buddy, so make it proud. Number 6, J3. That's you. At number 5, we have numberfire.com and Pro Football Focus guy Scott Barrett. Number 4, we have John Eddie II from Bangor, Pennsylvania. At number 3, Anthony Grace, baby. You get the 3rd pick.
Man, love it.
Yeah. Who do you have already on the radar at your 3rd pick? Who would you love to have fall to you?
Well, Damien didn't get his spot yet. I'm not giving away no information yet.
Damien, I was trying to help you.
Come on, bro.
Go ahead, Anthony, tell me.
I was trying to help you.
I ain't worried. Don't worry. I'm all right. I got something in store.
Wait, what did you just text me? Bishop Sankey?
Bishop Sankey.
No. At number 2, it's not you, buddy. It's actually Jersey Jen. Jen, you have the number 2 pick in the first annual Mock and Roll Show Pros vs. Joe's League Draft, which means the number 1 pick, the Holy Grail pick, goes to the ever head glowing and shining Damien Gessel.
All right. I hate that pick, but, you know.
Trade?
Wait, no. I'm putting it out there now. Unlike an hour league, Anthony, you have no idea what it's like to be in a league with Damien. Okay.
Oh no! I run the league. You have no idea what it's like.
Listen,
it's ugly. It's bad. Yeah.
Okay. Do you remember when
the
Super Bowl was, Anthony?
What?
Do you remember when the Super Bowl was?
This past year?
I mean, if you remember about, the date that might have happened, let's just say that no one in our league would ever be shocked if you're getting trade offers at halftime for the following season.
Oh, we pick our draft order for the following year at the Super Bowl every year. So
you guys don't mess around.
There you go.
So me and Damien can get along just fine. Don't worry about us. We're cool. We're fine.
Well, here, I'll give you an example. The season didn't start yet. Damien's already made 2 trades in our league. Already.
It's ridiculous, is what it really is.
I'm so excited. I can't wait.
Well, listen, Anthony, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. I mean, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. I've learned quite a bit, actually, from listening to some of the information you've been giving out, and I hope our listeners, of course, got a lot of good information. Will you be willing to come back on the show, post-draft sometime and join us again?
Oh, yeah, man. Like I said, I appreciate you guys having me on. I had a great time. Guys are awesome, a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to this league. Everybody out there is playing in it, and we're going to have a great time. And, yeah, man, anytime you need me on here, anytime you want me on to come down and break some stuff with you guys, I'm in. You know where to find me. Awesome,
brother. Awesome. Again, follow this guy at the PPR Monster. Listen to his radio show every Tuesday and Thursday from 4 to 6 on Patriots.com. Anthony will be joining us next week alongside the rest of our esteemed panelists and Damien for the first annual Mock and Roll Show, Pros vs. Joe's Draft. Johnny fell out of his chair. He's so excited. I don't know what's going on over there. No more cheap plugs about our sites. You know where to find us. Mock and Roll Show is the keyword for every one of our sites. But the last thing is, hey, fantasy football season is coming up, and guess what that means, guys? It's time to do your daily fantasy football, and of course, we have a great partnership with DraftKings.com. Go to DraftKings.com, sign up now, use the promo code MOCKROLL, and get free entry right away for a contest coming up at DraftKings. Johnny, I hope you're still alive, buddy. And anyway, seriously, on behalf of J3, Damien, Anthony, and myself, I want to thank everybody for tuning into the Mock and Roll Show. Subscribe to us on iTunes. Thank you guys so much for multiplying our downloads by a crazy amount of numbers. Subscribe. This will be up on Friday. We'll see you guys next Wednesday night for the draft. Thank you guys so much.